Let's get started. My talk is about Fluttium, which is an end-to-end user testing tool for the real world. So I hope all of you are Flutter developers. I suspect you are, but it's going to be focused on testing, end-to-end testing for Flutter, not anything else. So if you're in the wrong room now, please stay, so at least the room is not empty. A quick introduction, who am I? My name is Jochum from the Ploeg. I'm an open source engineer working at Very Good Ventures. And I'm also part of the Bluefire collective, which maintain the Flame engine as one of many things that we maintain. And a fun fact about that, the whole Bluefire team is here. I hope they're also here in this room. There, at least two of them are. So it's the first time that we are all together, so that's really cool. So I'm really glad that FlutterCon has allowed us to do that. I myself also maintain a lot of packages, including Fluttium, obviously. By the way, you see this picture, I'm the guy there in the background, all the way there in the black t-shirt. I did this picture on purpose because most people don't recognize me, because this is my profile picture on Twitter. My name is Wolfenrain there, so in case you're now like, oh wait, it's that guy? Yeah, it's that guy. I'm your worst nightmare, but I'm Salih's best friend, and I'm the publisher of like 99 packages, like 99% of the packages, so hey, that's me. But you guys didn't came here for me, I hope. You guys came here for end-to-end testing and Fluttium. So what is end-to-end testing? Well, I'm no expert on it. So according to Google, in a nutshell, it is testing user scenarios like as if you are in production, or in some cases even as if you're really testing in production. It's about verifying that your application is usable through like accessibility tools, like a screen reader, for instance, or like a tool that helps users navigate through your application. If you can do that in your application through programmatic APIs, then your user, no matter what kind of problem they might have physically or mentally or whatever, they can also use your application. And it's fully verified. Like you can check, like, okay, this is, like, I want to scroll down in this list view. Can any user that wants to use my app do that as well? Like that's what you do with end-to-end testing. It's much broader than that, obviously. Like you can also verify a lot of different things. But in a nutshell, that's what it is, according to Google. So yeah, it's about validating your core application. And that's just, currently in the Flutter community, there are a few tools out there that can already do this, but like, not sure how many have done end-to-end testing here. Well, okay, nice, awesome. And I suspect most of you did either use like the Flutter integration test or something like Appium or like an existing framework that's outside of the Flutter ecosystem, right? No? Okay, well. That's also, according to Google, the most used one, like Appium. But obviously we are FlutterCon, like we talk about Flutter stuff, so I wanted to give a shout out to a few different packages in the Flutter ecosystem before I start showing mine and say that that's much better than theirs. Like first of all, we have Patrol, which is from LeanCode. They are the sponsors here as well. And they basically power up the existing Flutter integration test framework that Flutter already provides by having like native interactions, but also a lot of other extra tools that you would probably need if you're writing end-to-end tests. And then there is also Honey. Honey is made by ClickUp, and it's more focused, like the first one, like Patrol, is focused on Dart developers and Flutter developers. It's the same language, we write in Dart, and that's how it works. In the case of Honey, you have a completely new natural language that really reads as if you're typing in English, you know, and it's really fluent in reading and executing. So even QA testers could probably work with it quite well without having to know any kind of programming languages, which is, in my opinion, a really nice benefit of Honey. And obviously, there's also Flutter integration test. I mean, it does the trick. That's all I can say about it. But obviously, there are also tools outside of the Flutter ecosystem. Like like I just mentioned, Appium, which is really like broad. Like anyone can use it for iOS, Android. I think they even support web and desktop. Like they have a lot of stuff, and they have a lot of different runners for it. It's amazing, at least according to Google, because I've never used it. We also have Maestro, and we have UI Automator and XC Test for iOS. They are in their own right, really awesome, really nice frameworks or tools to use for end-to-end testing, but for the Flutter ecosystem, they just don't fit well because Flutter is its own thing. Like your app can run on so many different platforms. It could run on a fridge even if you wanted to. I don't think UI Automator would work on a fridge unless it's running Android. So yeah, they do the trick, but for the Flutter ecosystem and the future of Flutter, they might not be as great as Patrol, Honey, or Fluttium. So Fluttium is my vision on end-to-end testing within the Flutter ecosystem. I mean, Patrol was already existing and really nice. And then I was like, yeah, but this is not really, you're still writing Dart code. And what I've seen from, what I've seen at VGV, but also in general, like if people write end-to-end tests in Flutter integration test, they write it as a unit test. They look up a widget by a key, and then they say, okay, I'm going to press this, and then I'm going to wait a few seconds, and I'm going to press something else, and they look that widget up by a key. But your user that is using your application won't use your global key or your unique key. They will look at the visual elements, the semantic part of your application, like a piece of text or maybe an icon and that kind of stuff. They won't really know how you made your code. And as a developer, you probably know exactly how your application works, so you can write the perfect test, the perfect integration test, finding the elements exactly like you want them to, because you know the keys. And that's not really testing. That's just making sure that your navigation flow works in that sense. And that's where I thought, okay, Patrol is nice, but could we make it a bit more focused on the end user of your application? And that's why I basically created Fluttium. It focuses on the end user by forcing the developer to write that test as if you're going through the app manually without even knowing how it is written. So it could technically be really bad code using, I don't know, any kind of like navigation system or any kind of semantics. But if you are writing like really weird semantic labels to find whatever you're looking for, then your user using a screen reader probably doesn't understand how your app works and leaves the app because it can't use it. So that's why Fluttium exists. And obviously it was created with Flutter applications in mind because things like Appian and Maestro, well, they support Flutter to a certain degree, but they are never like as intertwined with it as Patrol is or Honey is or Fluttium. So that's why Fluttium exists. I hope that makes sense, because in my head it does, but getting that kind of information out is always difficult. As I just mentioned, Fluttium is created for Flutter, but it's also created with Flutter. So that means that any platform that Flutter supports, Fluttium will also support out of the box. That means there's support for Android, iOS, web, Mac, Windows, Linux. But RISC-V, if we're ever going to support it with Flutter, it could work on it. A fridge, it could work on it. Like a car that has its own embedded system for like the car kit in front of them, it could work on it because it's just Flutter. As long as Flutter can run on it, Fluttium can work with it as well. So you don't need any extra dependencies. It's basically like the batteries are included, and you can just plug and play. Awesome, right? No? That was my best slide, so after this it goes downhill. How does it work? Well, from like an eagle view, I'm not going in depth in exactly how it works. If you want to do that, it's open source. You can just look at the code yourself. It's horrible, but it works. It uses the semantics tree. So the semantics tree is basically something that your Flutter application comes with by default if you, for instance, use like the material library. It's everything that you use, from a list view to the navigation bar or the bottom bar or even like a list style, it all has semantic labeling and semantic text, and like even the icons from Flutter have like specific labels on them which you can use to find them. If someone is using your application and you didn't write any kind of semantics yourself and they would use a screen reader, it would probably still make sort of sense for them how your app looks like and how they can navigate through them. They would probably hear really weird words like list underscore view underscore x n I or something, so you should label them yourself, which Flutter also makes quite easily. But that is how Fluttium works. It uses that semantics tree that describes your UI, that describes the page that you're on, and using that semantics tree, Fluttium generates code internally at runtime to basically know how it should execute the test that you have written on top of the Flutter application that you want to test it on. And these tests are fully embedded within the Flutter application itself, meaning that everything that Fluttium does is basically like a layer around your application to basically make it like a fully executable application that if you wanted to, I don't support it, but if you wanted to, you could build it into an APK, give it to a user, they install it, and it would just run that test flow on that device, literally there without them having to do anything. It's just all contained into a single application, thanks to Flutter. And the next version of Flutter will be a bit different. It will use the Flutter daemon. I don't know if many people know what the Flutter daemon, or however you pronounce that word, is, but it's basically the machine readable version of Flutter. So normally you do a Flutter run and you get this really fancy output with like hot reload and hot restart. Well, that's the Flutter daemon with a user interface on top of it. The Flutter daemon is basically just all these JSON outputs and inputs that you can send in, and Fluttium will use that to basically control your application so it can do extra stuff, extra validation, and allowing for bidirectional communication. So as I just mentioned, the full test that you have written is completely inside of your Flutter application, but using the Flutter daemon, I can also tell it to just stop or skip a test or whatever I want, because I can literally tell it like, okay, you should run this test with all the code that you have, but you should maybe skip the first 5 steps because I'm manually going to that page, so you can run it from there. And that kind of stuff. I can now control the execution flow of the test however I want. I haven't written anything for it, but the next version will use it at least, so it's something, you know? And that's the Dart VM extensions. They allow for that bidirectional communication. And also speeds up it will speed up the test as well quite drastically, which was the main reason I even did this. And then I found out I can do a lot more with it, which was really cool. So that's how it works in an Eagle view. Well, before we go even into how you can start with Fluttium, I wanted to mention that people use Fluttium. Apparently not a lot of people. The first one is Lottie. It's a tracking app. It's fully open source. It's created by Matthias Nelson. I'm not sure if he's here. No, he's not here. That's at least not that I can see. Yeah, he is? Oh, okay. Oh, he comes tomorrow. Oh, that's sad. Anyway, that's his app. It's a really nice app. It's fully open source, but he uses Fluttium for some interesting use cases. But that's at least one person that uses it. I technically use it as well. Like, I'm making my own application for managing notifications, and I wanted to write end-to-end tests, and then I found out that it was really horrible in Flutter, and I was like, this. Then I pivoted away from my project to start a new project, and that's how Fluttium was born. Like all my packages, whoops. And apparently there are also a lot of private applications or applications that companies have written. Some are from the Netherlands, and I don't know who they are, because they told me at different times in my life that, hey, we use Fluttium. And I was like, cool. And then I never asked them, like, for what company do you work for? So they're out there, yay. But yeah, you guys didn't come here for like the sales pitch. So how to get started? It's quite simple. You just install the Fluttium CLI, and you go to your project, and you do Fluttium init. That's it. That's how you get started. Like, obviously, you haven't written the test yet, but you have at least initialized Fluttium in your project. The init command creates a Fluttium.yaml in the current directory, and Fluttium then uses that to configure itself, its driver, etc. We'll get to that in a little bit. I mean, we'll probably get to it right now. Yeah. So this is an example of the Fluttium YAML. It shows, it's a bit like the pub spec. It's like a version of like the pub spec. It's its own file because I didn't want to pollute the pub spec itself, so I'm polluting the file system. And as you can see, you can specify which version of Fluttium you want to use, etc. So you can version control all of that stuff. And you can configure basically the driver, which is basically how it runs Flutter. So you can control like the target, its flavor, the Dart defines. Anything that you can do with the Flutter run command, you can do it with the driver, and if you can't, then you should open an issue, and I'll add it. But I think I have supported every feature now, I hope, every flag on it, so it would be kind of silly if it wasn't. But that was the YAML, and now we want to write some tests because we now have initialized it, but we can't really write any kind of test. So and again, you can just use the CLI. You can do Fluttium, new flow, name of your flow. It generates a YAML file, so that's the interesting part. Fluttium test files are just YAML files. Just like Maestro, if anyone has used that, it's just YAML files because that's the easiest way for both developers and non-developers to still be able to write anything. And you can verify that it's correct YAML because it's a kind of syntax, so you can write syntax confirmers for that to make sure that whatever was written is correct. So even people that are not that techy can write it and still know, oh, it was wrong, if they use a proper ID and not vim. But that's what it generates. And then you can run it by using the Fluttium test. And that will just do all the stuff. It would use the driver from your configuration. You could still override anything on the driver as well on this command line, so you can test and mess around with it however you want. And then the question obviously is, how does it then look like in action? So on the left, in the top left, we have an example flow. This is from the Fluttium repo, so this is fully open source. This is just one of the examples that I did. As you can see here, it's basically navigating to a certain test that I've written in the application or a certain view in the application, and then scrolls down to the list view until it reaches a certain number, in this case 100, so the bottom of the view, but it will just keep scrolling and scrolling until it's at the bottom. So how does this test basically look like at a higher resolution? Well, it's as simple as this. You press on whatever you want to press on, so I added all these semantic labels that explain what you're seeing on the screen. In this case, it's scrollable list. It's not really explaining anything, but it's to make it more sensible for you guys that it was the previous test. And then you can like expect things, you can verify that certain things has happened, etc. And then it can perform an action like scroll. Scroll in list view, which as you can see, I didn't name this myself, so it has the default name that Flutter generates, which is not really telling anyone anything, but that's the default name. And then until a certain list item, and then we can expect that a certain value is visible, and you can even apply regexes on it, and then you can do whatever you want after that. And what these things are, what you see here at the bottom, are basically actions or the steps that are performed. And what you see on the left are basically actions. They're action keys that perform a certain action, obviously. And there are a lot of built-in actions in Fluttium, but you can also have custom actions. And like, if you want to know what the built-in actions are, I would recommend the documentation page because that's more up-to-date than whatever is in my brain. But the custom actions is where Fluttium shines, in my opinion, because you can create your own action that's specifically tailored to whatever your application needs. So if your application has a certain specific thing that it has to constantly do, like for instance, pull down to refresh, and instead of doing like drag down, wait for this to be visible, wait for it to be gone, and then perform the next action, you can just create a custom action that does all of those steps. You can even refer to like built-in actions that Fluttium provides, but you can also access the semantic tree, the widget tree. You can do whatever you want. You can find other nodes within the widget tree quite easily or wait for them to be visible. That's what the custom action does, and that's where Fluttium basically shines. Like, I don't have to build everything for you. If something is missing, you can just do it yourself. Makes my life a lot easier. So the actions can also be reused. And that's the second best part, I suppose. You can either install them from pub, because actions are just Dart code. They're just Dart libraries. Like if you run the Fluttium new action, it will just create a package that is tailored towards an action, and you could publish it to PubDev. If it's something really generic, you want to reuse it across applications, and you think other people might want to use this, no, they can install it. It's version control, awesome. You can also get them from Git, or you get them from the pod thing. So the potential with actions is basically infinite, because you can scale them however you want. You can version control them however you want. I mean, it's basically another pub spec, but then specifically for Fluttium. Great, right? No? Yay. So what do these actions look like? Well, they tend to exist out of one register.dart file that you can see on the left, which is basically a mandatory part of it. So this has to be publicly available. It has to be exported on the package. because this is what Fluttium will try to find to basically call that register method to allow you to do whatever you want with the registry. In this case, you're adding this expect environment text, which is from my example, to be visible. And here on the right, we have that action. So you can have, in one package, have as many actions as you want, and then just register them at runtime thanks to Fluttium. And then on the right, this is basically the example. As you can see in the execute, which is the thing that you have to implement yourself, you can call a different action that is built in, or maybe you're even depending on another package that has actions as well. And then you can execute it, and based on if it's true or false, it would then fill, or it would throw a message, or whatever. And the best part of it, it's a Dart package, but it's also a Flutter package. So if you need any kind of native integration or native support, you can just do it, add it as a dependency. If you want to store some metrics to Firebase Analytics or whatever, you can do that in your action and record that kind of information. I don't know why you would want that, but if you want, you can do it. So that's a freebie that you're getting from me. I'm not sure how much time I have. Should be fine. Yeah, because I don't have any more slides, I just noticed. So the best part about the action in the execute is this tester. So you guys are probably familiar with the widget tester. I didn't call this Fluttium tester because it's already Fluttium focused, so I was like, it's a bit too much on the nose, so I just called it tester. But it does the same thing as the widget tester. You can do a pump. You can do a pump and settle. But we are not running a Flutter test. We are running on a real device. So I had to basically recreate all that kind of logic that they have for the widget tester in a Flutter application, which is a lot harder than I thought it would be. So you can pump and settle, you can find, you can add the pointer event. So you can literally be like, I want to drag like an S shape or something like that. If you want to do that, if you can do it with widget tester and the finder, you can do it with this tester clause as well. So as a Dart developer, you could still write your actions as if you're doing a normal Flutter integration test. And then on the front-facing side, your Q&A engineer, for instance, would not know the better. They just use that action that you have created to execute all the magic that you have done. So most of this talk was based on my documentation website that I created for Fluttium.dev. So here's a QR code if you haven't seen the documentation website, which is awesome if you haven't seen it yet, because that means all of this was new. If you did, then you're probably bored right now. It has a lot more features. It describes a lot more features than what I just went in, like the things for debugging, like taking screenshots, etc. Like it supports all of that. And if there's something you don't support, please open an issue on the repository, because I love to work and not spend time with my friends and family. So please open issues, yay. But my talk is based on this. So yeah, I only have one more slide, and that's basically, hey, do people have questions? I hope not, but